I, 17 female, found out that I'm pregnant. My boyfriend, 19 male, and I told his mom last Sunday, and she told me that I need an abortion. I just wanna start by saying I do not want advice on whether or not I should abort or keep my baby. I've made up my mind about that, so please no disrespect. I just want to know how to deal with his mom. I'm 17, almost 18, I'll be 18 April 10th, and a little over a month ago I found out that I'm pregnant. When I first found out I was terrified, literally cried because I just wasn't sure I could do this. I told my mom, and she was really supportive. Disappointed, sure, but supportive, and we talked for hours and weighed all the options, and I decided that I want to keep my baby. Shortly after I told her, I told him, and he was pretty scared, but also pretty excited to be a dad. We understand how difficult it will be, and that I'll have to put my life on hold for a bit, but I'm okay with that, because I will go to college and still accomplish all my dreams. My baby will just be a part of them now. So when I got full support from him, and from my family, it kind of felt like a breath of fresh air. Him and I decided that we had to tell his parents, obviously, which we were both extremely nervous about because his family is a lot more get married and then have kids when you're 30, which is fine, but that clearly went out the window. Not to mention, his mom hasn't been a big fan of me for the last year of our relationship. We've been together for a year and 9 months, and for the first few months his mom seemed really nice. But it was like the longer we were together, the more she hated me. When he would bring me to the occasional family holiday with them, his mom would roll her eyes, make little comments about how it looked like I gained a little weight, or about how I was breaking out, or about how much cleavage my dress was showing. Nobody else in his family treated me like that. His dad and sister love me, his grandparents love when he brings me over. I have never had a run-in with any of them. It's just like his mom almost feels threatened that I'm trying to steal him from her or something. He admits that his mom is pretty overbearing and doesn't really want him to grow up, but the death glares and shady comments have been a bit much. When we told them though, his dad was pretty excited and his mom acted as if she was as well. Obviously they had some concerns, but we talked them through and everything seemed okay. When dinner was over though, and my boyfriend went to go warm up his car, his mom pulled me into the kitchen and told me that I need to get an abortion. She was being very aggressive and was like gripping my arm in my face, telling me she doesn't want me with her son, and that if I don't abort this baby she was going to cut her own son off. I asked why she felt I needed to get one and told her I refused, and she just kept saying she doesn't like me for her son and that she doesn't want him tied to me. It hurt a lot hearing that, but on the ride back to my house, he just kept going on and on about how happy he was that his parents were happy for us. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that his mom did that. It makes me nervous because I know that if I tell him he's going to be pissed and confront his mom, which sounds like a good thing in theory, but he's employed through his dad. His dad owns a construction company and he works for him, making pretty good money. That money is how he afford his apartment and his car insurance and his groceries. And if he confronts her and she really does cut him off, she'll sure enough do some whispering in his dad's ear and get him fired, which will leave us in an even tougher position. We both have jobs and have quite a bit in savings, but I absolutely cannot do it alone, financially or in the physical and emotional sense. I've done some looking into other construction jobs in case I do tell him, but none of them pay nearly as well as his current job pays him. And it could completely ruin him getting his dad's company someday, and I don't wanna fuck up his family and his life like that. However, for the last week, literally every single day, several times a day, his mom has been sending constant harassing messages, telling me once again that I need the abortion, that I'm not right for her son, that I'm a whore, and I'm ruining his life, telling me she'll drive me to the abortion clinic and pay for it all. It doesn't stop. I try to reason with her, tell her at least not to cut her son off, but that I won't come around anymore. But she is set on me getting an abortion and getting out of his life. I didn't ask his parents for anything. I never would. I didn't expect them to offer up babysitting or money or anything, because like I said, I figured his parents wouldn't be too happy about it. It's not even the financial aspect or anything else she's worried about. She just doesn't want me to have a baby with him. There's really no clean way out of this, and I'm terrified that I'm gonna dig us into a hole that we can't get out of. I refuse to get the abortion just to please his mom. It pisses me off that she's going behind his back like this, giving me an ultimatum and telling me I'm responsible for whatever happens. But I don't know what to do. I feel trapped. I know having a baby right now isn't gonna be an easy thing in the slightest, but his mom is just making it so much harder on us. Update. I, 17 female, told my boyfriend, 19 male, about his mom trying to pressure and harass me into having an abortion. So, Thursday night I told my boyfriend about his mom and showed him all the messages. It just was getting to be a lot and giving me like stress stomach aches and causing a lot of crying, and I just couldn't do it alone. So I sat him down and let him read the messages. It took a while because there was a lot, but eventually it just got to the point where he couldn't read them anymore and he was furious. So pissed off at his mom and immediately wanted to grab his car keys and go over there. But when he saw me start crying he calmed down a bit and we just hugged and talked. He kept saying he was done with his mom, that he couldn't believe she'd do and say that, and that he was sorry he didn't realize sooner. I think he felt responsible and was almost blaming himself. It was a really emotional night, tears from both of us, but I've been really nauseous lately and have been having back pain, even though I'm only in the first trimester. So we just laid down and decided we'd talk to his dad the next day. In the morning he asked if I'd just come to work with him and talk to his dad in the office because his mom was home. So we went, and when his dad found out he was furious. His dad seemed a little hurt that I believed he'd fire his son. Kept telling me that he loves me and the baby and has no intention of ever saying goodbye to either of us. My boyfriend was still pretty pissed, but just in general, not at his dad. His dad even told us that, just to put my boyfriend at ease, he'd talk to a few people and see if writing up a contract saying he won't terminate him because of the baby would be a viable option. We made plans to go over to his parents' house last night and we did. I left my mom out of this because I knew she'd be furious and wouldn't be able to control her anger. As soon as I walked in the door she looked outed and put on a fake smile and was like, "It's so good to see you, sweetheart. How's baby doing?" and went in for a hug. But my boyfriend stepped in front of me and told her we needed to talk. The conversation was very calm at first, but when she kept denying it and said, "So you'd believe that whore over your own mother?" it took a turn for the worst. Even though I printed out screenshots she kept saying it wasn't her, that I faked it, that this was my plan all along. Nobody believed her because I talked to them first, but it just caused a lot more tension and yelling. It really wasn't pretty and his dad saw how uncomfortable I was and they decided to go argue and scream at each other in their bedroom. When they were done with the yelling, he came out and told me he was sorry for the way his wife reacted and that he understands if I don't want the baby in her life. He hugged me pretty tight and touched my belly and just asked that he can see him or her so long as his wife isn't around. And obviously I really want his dad to be involved in his grandbaby's life. He assured me that he's gonna help us out every step of the way and even told me that if I want another job where I won't have to be on my feet all day, that he can always use some help with paperwork at the office. He even asked if he could come to the next appointment, that I'd get an ultrasound for the baby. He's really excited to be a grandpa, even more so than my own dad it seems. We made plans to go to dinner with him today because we all forgot that the restaurants were closed, so instead we'll be cooking at my boyfriend's apartment tonight. It feels great getting it off my chest, but I'm still not sure if his mom will ever apologize for the things she said. I love that my boyfriend's dad is being so supportive, but it still kinda stings that his mother doesn't want a relationship with the baby. Not that I'd really even want that toxicity around my child, but it still just hurts knowing we weren't approved of. I'd still consider this a success though. Thank you all for your advice and support. Maybe down the line his mom will come around, but for now I'm okay with it just being his dad. Mother-in-law got mad because I didn't let my child see a dead body. Trigger warning. Suicide, death, description of a dead body. A week ago a tragedy happened in our family. My brother-in-law committed suicide which threw our entire family into total shock. We have zero clues about his reasons. This just came so unexpectedly, totally out of blue. No one had the slightest idea he was struggling with something as he was always so positive. We all went to the funeral, including our 8-year-old daughter. There was no official viewing due to the suicide method he chose. The coffin was closed, and he was going to be cremated. Before all the service started, I saw mother-in-law taking my daughter by the hand and leading her towards the coffin. First I thought that maybe she will place a flower or something, but then I saw mother-in-law starting to open the lid of the coffin. I was like, no way. My brother-in-law threw himself under a train, so you can imagine what the outcome of that looks like. The train pretty much sliced him up. His head was severed, his limbs were severed, as well as the rest of his body. I saw him once before the funeral and, even after everything the mortician did to make him look better, it was still a gory sight. Even for me as an adult, and I definitely don't think a little child should see it. So I asked mother-in-law, what are you doing? She doesn't have to see that. Mother-in-law said she wants to say goodbye to her uncle. They cleaned him and dressed him up. It's fine. I said no. It's one thing to tell a child about death, why people pass, and stuff like that, and I wouldn't have minded for her to see the body if it was intact. But not in this situation, when we all know the condition of brother-in-law's body, and I know my daughter, she's very emotional, and she would have nightmares after seeing it. I was surprised that mother-in-law doesn't understand it's a highly inappropriate sight for a child. I took my daughter away and explained to her that it's better if she remembers her uncle the way he was when he was alive. As I was doing it, I saw mother-in-law across the room talking to father-in-law and throwing mad glances my direction. I knew she was probably saying nothing nice about me, but I paid no attention to it. In my opinion, she had absolutely nothing to take offense about. However, after the funeral was over, mother-in-law walked up to me and was like, what you did was so unacceptable. That was her last chance to see her uncle. I'm not going to be surprised if your daughter will hold it against you when she grows up. She's not a baby anymore. She's old enough. What's unacceptable is to subject a child to something that's not meant for children's eyes. I'm her mother and I say she's not old enough. She's just 8. When she grows up, I'm sure she'd rather have the memory of her uncle alive and smiling than one of him missing half his head. Mother-in-law was like, you overprotective dumbass, and walked away with the other visitors. I wasn't going to make a scene, because 1, it was a funeral after all, and 2, I could understand mother-in-law in a way. She just lost one of her sons and probably isn't feeling like herself right now. Though even when brother-in-law was still with us, other-in-law has always acted very snobbish and condescending towards me, as if she was better or something. And it has never bothered me. I just shrugged it off and tried to be a bigger person. And I said nothing to my husband about this argument we had, because he's in pieces now. Brother-in-law's death hit him harder than anyone in our family. Brother-in-law was his beloved older brother he has always looked up to. Now my husband is destroyed, and I want to let him mourn and not put any more stress on him. I can perfectly deal with mother-in-law myself if I have to. I just think the way she reacted was really weird. I doubt she would have let her children see an exposed gore when they were little. Pretty sure I'm not overreacting about this. My husband is my hero today. Mother-in-law is here this week to look at retirement communities near us. The 2 we are looking at are about an hour away and very nice. She came in yesterday afternoon and we met her at the airport. First question out of her mouth when greeted by her son, daughter-in-law and only grandchild, why didn't you get a sitter? We tell her there was no need. We thought she'd like to see daughter, and daughter has never not been with one of her parents or close family-in-law friends. So why would we get a sitter? Mother-in-law responds that we are spoiling that girl, and something about this is how she'll turn out like me. I blink. I hope so. I'm her mother. Mother-in-law makes a noise and finally looks at me. She knew I was pregnant. We told her, but I don't think she really absorbed this until she saw me. I'm a small woman. I just am. And husband is a big guy who makes big babies. So, it is obvious. Mother-in-law has to have another jab. Well, she won't be spoiled when you have that one. Don't you people believe in birth control? I have no words. I look over at husband. This is the sort of situation we've discussed in detail, but he is already handling it. He has paper out and is writing down an address. It's a hotel. He hands it to her and puts down her bag. She looks at him like she is crazy. Asks what he's doing. That's the hotel address. For the cab. She says she thought we were taking her. We were going to get a cab with her, do the dinner obligation, and then I was going to avoid her as much as possible for the week, which with how she is in the plans, would be easy. Husband answers, you made it clear you wouldn't want to be with me and that girl. You will not be rude to or about to my wife. You will not be rude to or about my children. She stares at him, mouth open. He goes on, I'm going home with my family. There is a nice restaurant at cross streets near the hotel. Get some dinner. We will see you day to look at the places. Have a good night. She has no time to reply. He puts his arm around me and sort of guides me plus stroller out. I love this man. Eater, the sexual comments are making me sort of uncomfortable. I'm sorry,